Hello everyone. Please like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our stories.
When I was very young, just 6 years old, my world was full of stories and images, strange, wild tales I discovered in books. One particular book fascinated me, a study of the primeval jungle in which I learned about the curious hunting habits of the python. It was there that I first saw the picture, a python not gently nibbling its prey, but instead swallowing it whole in a single effortless gesture. The idea was both haunting and mesmerizing. The illustration lingered in my mind, the great snake, its belly hugely swollen, the mystery of its feast hidden within. Full of inspiration, I took up my crayons and paper. For a 6-year-old, a blank sheet was anything, a window to worlds unimaginable. I drew with reverence my masterpiece, my first creation. That same python, its body coiled and rounded, digesting not some ordinary animal, but an elephant. But I did not draw the elephant in plain view. Instead, like the python, I concealed the elephant inside, the bulk giving rise to that singular strange shape. It was my drawing number 1. Proud and eager, I showed it to the grown-ups around me, convinced that they too would be struck by the mystery and thrill of my creation. "Are you scared?" I asked, my eyes bright, searching for recognition. But they peered at the drawing with puzzled faces. They saw only a lumpy hat, inexplicable atop the paper. Their reply was quick and casual. "Why should I be scared of a hat?" And they dismissed my question with a laugh. Confused, disheartened, I tried again. Drawing number 2. This time I would remove all doubt. I drew the python with its belly sliced open, an elephant, unmistakable, curled inside, the anatomy made perfectly clear. And yet, all I received was a shrug, a patient pat on the head. "Put the drawings away," they said. "You would do better to study geography, arithmetic, and grammar. These things are what matter as you grow up." So I listened, as children must in the world of adults. I put aside my dream of becoming an artist. My pictures were tucked away, faded, as I was shepherded into the narrow corridors of numbers and facts, away from the sweeping landscapes of imagination. For in the world of grown-ups, dreams, especially those that do not fit their logic, are simply regarded as childish nonsense. Years passed. I grew as children do, tall and thin, my days governed by timetables, my questions replaced with facts. I learned to speak in the language of seriousness, to tuck my wild notions deep inside. But something in me always remembered that python, that elephant, that secret shape upon the page. In time, I became a pilot. It was a curious twist of fate that led me to the sky, to clouds and currents of wind. Up there, the endless silence and vastness felt closer to the freedom of childhood than to the measured world below. As a pilot, I was set free from the geography and arithmetic of my youth, soaring beyond schedules, traveling over continents, deserts, and seas. Yet everywhere I landed, no matter the color of people's coats, whether their voices rang with French, Mandarin, or something else, all grown-ups seemed the same. Their questions rarely danced beyond the surface. They asked, "How old are you? What do you do? How much do you earn? Do you own a house? Are you married?" And with these questions, they assumed they knew me, that they understood something about my life. But real understanding, I learned, was rare. I kept drawing number 1 in my notebook, a quiet test. When I wanted to see if someone could perceive past appearances, I would show them that picture. If they replied, "It's a hat," I knew they saw nothing more. Then I would talk with them only about simple, sensible topics, stocks, lawns, politics, weather. I reserved my real heart for those rare few who could truly see. And then, my life changed in a single moment. An accident in the desert. My plane, trustworthy and familiar, suffered a malfunction over the Sahara. Suddenly, the world was reduced to sand, sky, and solitude. There was no one for hundreds of miles. No water, no village, only the heat shimmering on the dunes, a limitless sea of gold beneath the punishing sun. My provisions were meager. Water to last 8 days, a small kit of tools tucked in the cockpit. I resolved to begin repairs at once, for there was no time to despair or dream. The vastness pressed around me, utter silence by day, the cold bite of the desert at night. As darkness swallowed the dunes, a curtain of stars unfurled overhead. So close, so silent, so eternal. Each beat of my heart sounded loud, echoing the loneliness of a man alone at the edge of the world. Dawn came gently, painting gold upon the pale sand. I stirred from restless sleep, mind heavy with the challenges ahead. It was then, in the hush of morning, that I heard a voice. "Please, draw me a sheep." I jolted upright. Before me stood a child, small, slender, clad in a long cloak that brushed the sand, his golden hair catching the first light of day. He seemed wholly out of place, yet wholly at ease, as if he belonged just as much to the desert as to any other place. His eyes were serious, not frightened, not pleading, simply full of quiet certainty. "Draw me a sheep," he asked again, his voice both soft and commanding. I stared in disbelief. My mind reeled. Surely I was dreaming, or the sun had played tricks on me. Yet the boy was real, as tangible as the sand beneath my hands, alive and expectant. In spite of my confusion, I felt an ancient warmth, a flicker from a time long past, when someone had valued my drawings, when requests came not for diagrams or formulas, but for sparks of the imagination. I fumbled for paper and pen, my grown-up certainty unraveling before this simple, wondrous request. And so in that lonely place, under a sunlit sky with no witness but the sand and the wind, I remembered what it meant to dream, to create, to see the world through the hopeful eyes of a child. And for the first time in many years, I began to draw. In the quiet, golden expanse of desert, everything seems still, as if time itself has stopped to catch its breath. The sun burns low on the horizon, painting the sand with endless shadows. Here, survival is a calculation. Water left in your canteen, the next possible rescue, the hope of fixing an engine. In such a world, nothing prepares you for the gentle arrival of a child, a strange boy who stands before you as if he's merely wandered from the edge of some invisible path, utterly at home where no one else could be. He's impossibly calm, his blonde hair catching the sun, his gaze steady and direct. And then, in a voice delicate as a desert breeze, he asks quietly, "Please draw me a sheep." No preamble, no explanation, no curiosity about broken airplanes or grown-up worries. Just the clear, insistent needs of a heart unburdened by doubt. Perhaps you'd expect a child lost in the desert to be desperate, screaming for help or terrified of the silence. But this little boy stands in serenity, as if the boundless emptiness is simply one more room in his endless home. He does not introduce himself, nor does he ask who you are. There is no unease, no flinching. I look around, bewildered, convinced that this is a hallucination conjured by heat and thirst. But he is as real as the sand under my hands. I find, almost against my will, the old paper and pen I used to carry. A lifetime ago, when I was a child like him, I used to draw, wild dreams, pictures beyond the understanding of grown-ups. I remember with a pang the time I drew my proudest creation, a python digesting an elephant. No adult saw what I meant. Their laughter taught me the simplicity and sorrow of outgrowing wonder. Now, uncertain and embarrassed, I try to draw again. I hand him my old picture, hoping perhaps to divert his request with a bit of nostalgia. He studies it carefully, and for a moment I hope he will see what no one else did. But he shakes his head, gentle and firm. No, I don't want an elephant inside a python. Pythons are scary. Besides, elephants are too big for my planet. A planet? The words ring odd in my ears, but he pays no attention to my confusion. He only repeats his request. "Draw me a sheep." So I try. Awkward lines, a lopsided body, the marks of a grown man who long ago stopped believing his hands could make something beautiful. The boy scrutinizes my sheep, then shakes his head again, patient as a teacher with a small child. "This one is too old." Discouraged, I draw another. This time, he points to the horns. "No, this one is a goat, not a sheep." Another attempt. His frown deepens. The sheep is too thin, too weak. I lose patience. Out of desperation, I sketch a small rectangle, add a few holes, and hand it to him. It's a box. The sheep you want is inside. A moment of silence. Then a smile, bright and miraculous as sunrise. The boy's face lights up, and suddenly the heavy air of the desert seems lighter. "Oh, that's perfect. Just what I needed. Do you think it needs a lot of grass?" I answer, the corners of my mouth turning up against my better judgment. No, your planet is very small, isn't it? He nods seriously, as if this is an important, almost solemn truth. Very small. I just need a small sheep. It shouldn't eat too much, not all my flowers. For a moment, I am thrown. Flowers in the desert sun on a tiny planet? But the boy's expression has changed. His eyes fixed on the invisible sheep inside the box, his features softening with a curious mix of pride and worry. You have flowers? I ask, hesitant. He nods again, and a shadow crosses his face. A tender, aching look found only in those who know the vulnerability of love. There's one on my planet. It's unlike any other. I don't want the sheep to eat it. He sits beside me, close enough that I can see the grains of sand clinging to his shoes, small enough to remind me of promises made and forgotten to childhood wonder. And as the sun creeps lower, a strange peace settles over us. In his simple confession, I sense a story unspoken. A journey not across deserts and stars, but through hope and loneliness, care and imagination. In that moment, the desert is no longer empty. Here, on these shifting sands, he brings with him an entire world. A planet not much larger than himself, filled with patches of grass, 3 volcanoes, and a single radiant precious flower. A world as fragile and beautiful as a child's heart. And as I watch him, it dawns on me, with a kind of gentle awe, that this boy will not ask how I will fix my airplane, or when the next caravan will pass, or what makes a grown man sleep on the sand in the middle of nowhere. He will never be distracted by the grown-up need for reasons and explanations. He will only return again and again to what matters to him. The care of small things, the protection of a single bloom, the certainty that his sheep must not harm what is gentle or dear. There is, in his manner, an expectation that I will understand. Not with my mind, but with a part of me I had long abandoned. In his questions, there is no accusation, simply trust. Here, amidst the desolate landscape, the little prince teaches me that true importance is simple and hidden, shielded from the eyes of those too hurried, too practical to see. His faith is unshakable, his need unabashed, and in his presence I am reminded of the value that lies beneath the surface, invisible to those who have forgotten how to look. So we sit together, he and I, me, still puzzled by his presence, and he, content with his box and his imagined sheep. There is no rush, no demand, only a quiet understanding that in drawing a sheep, I have been asked for something more, the willingness to see as children see, to surrender the distance between worlds, and to find, for a moment, a way back to wonder. High above us, the sky fades from gold to velvet indigo, dotted with infinite stars. And in that vastness, the voice of the little prince lingers, gentle and true. A reminder that often the heart's questions are the ones that matter most. In the heart of the desert, when the sun still hung low on the horizon, the boy sat quietly, drawing invisible patterns in the sand. Each movement of his slender fingers traced out secret lines, almost as if he were mapping his memories onto the earth itself. The wind circled softly around him, lifting dust in lazy spirals, while the emptiness of the desert stretched infinite and unbroken in all directions. Yet in that vastness, the boy's gentle voice drew the boundaries of his own small world. My planet is very small, he said, the words spilling forth with the weight of someone sharing something precious. So small, in fact, that it takes only 3 steps to go all the way around. His eyes, far away and bright, seemed to measure distances not of space but of meaning. On my planet, there are 3 volcanoes. 2 are awake and sometimes rumble in the night. The 3rd is long since gone to sleep, but I sweep it clean too, just in case it ever awakens. He paused, considering this ritual with the seriousness of someone entrusted with great responsibility. Every morning, I rise early and care for each volcano. I sweep out the ashes and keep everything clear and tidy. It's my job, and it matters, because even on the smallest of planets, there are things worth tending to. His small hands traced circles again, almost unconsciously. The dust beneath his touch was soft, like the memory of his distant home. I must be careful, though. His voice lowered, as if confiding a great secret. There are weeds growing on my planet. Most are harmless. But the ones to watch for are the baobab shoots. When they are tiny, you can pull them out easily. But if you let them grow, they send their roots deep, so deep they could split the whole planet apart. He lifted his gaze, a flicker of pride in his expression when he spoke of this daily task. Each morning, before the sun is fully up, I search the ground for new sprouts. I pull out each baobab seedling before it grows into trouble. It feels like a ritual, and it keeps my home safe. The job never ends, but in the end, that is what makes it mine. For a time, he was silent, the desert's hush folding around his words, as if even the air was listening. Then, with a glance that seemed to pierce through time, he murmured, "Yet nothing matters more to me than my flower." He paused again, voice a breath against the wind. He was not just speaking, he was reaching back, across the emptiness, to hold on to something reflected only in memory. She is the one thing truly unique on my planet. She arrived from a seed I had never seen, mysterious and unfamiliar. While others sprang up quickly, she grew slowly, hidden beneath her green shell. I watched and waited. I wondered what she would become. He smiled softly, the memory vivid. When she finally bloomed, the sun was just rising. She unfurled herself, petal by petal, with such careful attention, almost as if she were putting on jewelry for a grand entrance. She yawned, delicately covering her mouth, saying, "Oh, I've only just woken up," as though her awakening was something to be witnessed by a most honored guest. In that moment, I saw both her pride and her beauty. The boy's smile lingered, touched with affection and a hint of sorrow. She was so particular. She always wanted the glass dome put over her at night, because she feared drafts from the wind. She asked for water in the mornings. Sometimes she would complain it was too hot, sometimes too cold, never quite satisfied. He traced a shape in the sand, as if drawing her silhouette. But there were times she would say nothing at all. She'd just look at me, her eyes shining, her silence more meaningful than words. Back then, I didn't understand. I was very young. Her demands and complaints seemed like nothing more than vanity. I thought she was proud, and perhaps ungrateful. I didn't realize her pride was only a mask for her tenderness, a way to shield herself from being hurt. The boy's shoulders dropped a little. The desert wind seemed to echo the ache in his confession. As I cared for her, I grew to need her. Her fragrance filled my planet as the sunlight broke over the horizon. Watching after her became my reason for waking early and sleeping late. Yet I was certain there was more for me elsewhere. I wanted to see other worlds, to understand what lay beyond my tiny domain. He looked away, eyes lingering on the silhouettes of distant dunes. So I left. I made sure she was safe beneath the glass dome. I told myself I'd done all I could, that I had fulfilled my responsibility. But now, as I sit here, I see how little I truly understood. He fell silent, lost in the swirl of memory. Time seemed to slow, the desert itself pausing to bear witness to old regrets. When he finally spoke, his voice was a whisper, trembling and raw. I asked her if she needed anything before I went. She said, "The glass dome isn't necessary anymore, but if it makes you feel better, you can keep it near. Don't worry about me, the wind can't hurt me, and I have my thorns for protection." She tried to sound brave. She even coughed lightly, as if it was nothing. Only now do I realize she was holding back tears, trying not to let me see. The boy's eyes clouded, and in the sand, his fingers traced the outline of a flower. All I could do was say goodbye, uncertain and afraid. I left her there, as she looked after me, her gaze full of things words cannot say. I've traveled from planet to planet since then, searching for understanding, searching for meaning. But always in my heart, I carry her presence. I cannot forget the small universe that was mine, or the gentle, proud flower who taught me both joy and regret. In the silence that followed, the world felt smaller, more intimate. In the vast emptiness of the desert, the boundaries of a tiny planet and the love for a single fragile flower became as immense as a universe. In the quiet, golden light, one learned that even on the smallest of planets, the weight of love is enough to fill the world and linger long after the journey has begun. After setting out from his own small world, a home with 3 volcanoes and a single beloved flower, the little prince began his journey among the stars. With each new planet he set foot upon, he hoped to unravel the mysteries not only of the universe, but of the peculiar grown-ups who inhabited it. These worlds, though tiny, brimmed with their own singular oddities, and each encounter left the little prince pondering the nature of those who lived there, and in turn, his own place among the stars. On the first planet, The little prince met a king, clothed in crimson robes, sitting alone atop a grand throne. The vastness of empty space seemed to echo the barrenness of his court. The king greeted the little prince with excessive joy, exclaiming his delight at finally seeing a subject on his otherwise deserted planet. But the little prince was quick to point out that he was not the king's subject. The king, though, was undeterred, insisting that he ruled not just this speck of a planet, but the entire universe. The stars themselves bowed to his command, he claimed. When the little prince, with the innocent boldness of childhood, asked if the king could make the sun set, the king answered that indeed he could, but only at the proper time. Power, to this king, was only real if wielded wisely. Or perhaps if nobody was around to see it fail. Before the little prince departed, the king proclaimed him minister of justice, commanding him to judge himself. "It is the hardest thing of all," the king intoned, "but the most noble." The little prince graciously received these cryptic words. There was a certain wisdom in the king's request. To judge others was easy, but to judge oneself, honestly and with kindness, was rare. Onward, the little prince traveled to the next planet, where an odd man in a grand fur hat awaited, bustling with self-importance. This man brimmed with need for praise, basking in the imagined admiration of a crowd that existed only in his mind. Mirrors surrounded him, and every glance reflected his ceaseless quest for applause. The moment he saw the little prince, he demanded to be called clever, handsome, and wealthy. It mattered not that no one else was present. The little prince's quiet presence was enough to spark his need. When the boy truthfully pointed out that the man was the only inhabitant of the planet, the man cared little. All he wanted was unending validation, not companionship or understanding. The little prince soon realized that the braggart was content to live in a world of constant self-reflective acclaim. A world so focused on what others might think, he never truly saw anyone but himself. The next stop was a somber one. On this third planet, among toppled and upright bottles, sat a despondent man. With slumped shoulders, he drank without joy. "I drink," said the man, "to forget." Curious, the little prince gently asked what it was he wished to forget. "To forget that I am ashamed of drinking." Round and round the cycle turned, trapping the man in a prison of his own making. Drinking to forget, ashamed because he drank, seeking solace at the bottom of each bottle. The little prince left, heart heavy, sensing there was little he could do to rescue the man from his swirling sadness. Compelled to continue his journey, the little prince next landed on the planet of a very busy merchant. This grown-up was entirely absorbed in his ledger, counting the stars across the night sky. 500 million. More. 1 billion, he muttered, scribbling down numbers, never once looking up. When the little prince inquired why he counted, the merchant replied, "Because I own the stars. When I count, they are mine." The little prince furrowed his brow. To him, ownership meant caring and tending. He watered his flower, protected it from the wind, loved it, but the merchant only wanted to enclose things in numbers and safes, never touching the gentle light or savoring beauty. To the merchant, value was locked in possession, not felt in the heart. The next planet was scarcely larger than a room. Here lived a single lamplighter and one lamp. The planet spun faster and faster. Each day lasted only 1 minute, so the lamplighter turned the light on and off ceaselessly without rest. The little prince was charmed by his diligence, yet puzzled by the futility of his labor. "Why do you keep lighting and extinguishing the lamp?" he asked. "Because this is my duty," replied the lamplighter, though the job had lost its meaning as the planet's days became endless cycles. Unlike the king who longed for power, or the braggart obsessed with praise, or the merchant blinded by numbers, the lamplighter simply did his work, faithfully and honestly, even when the world had changed beyond reason. The little prince admired his devotion. The lamplighter was the only adult who seemed to think of something besides himself. Soon the little prince reached another planet, home to an old geographer surrounded by vast dusty books. "I study the world," said the geographer grandly, but he had never ventured out to see anything for himself. "I only write down what is eternal. Mountains, seas, deserts, flowers are too fleeting to record." The little prince protested. Fragile things, he argued, are what matter the most. They may disappear, but they leave an imprint in the heart. The geographer, rooted in permanence, could not understand. Before he left, he offered the little prince a suggestion. Go to Earth. It is a remarkable planet, large and full of wonders. Thus, the little prince arrived on Earth, the largest planet yet, teeming with people and stories. But to his surprise, he had never felt so alone. Among millions of humans, each spinning in their own small orbit of worries and desires, he found himself longing for connection. Not numbers, not prestige or power, but the simple joy of a caring word or a true friend. In the vast silence of the desert, he found a pilot, a grown-up stranded far from home, quietly listening, willing to hear the child's story. And so, the little prince shared what he had seen and learned. The tales he told, with their gentle humor and sadness, revealed a truth that cut through the mask of adulthood. For all their seriousness, the adults he met had forgotten the simple treasures of life, the pride in a flower, the comfort of friendship, the dazzling hope in a sunset. The little prince's journey from planet to planet echoed the search each of us makes deep within for meaning, closeness, and understanding in a world that all too often values everything but the heart. When the little prince arrived on Earth, his final and most mysterious stop among the stars, he found himself in a world of contradictions. Earth, the seventh planet in his journey, was a place teeming with life. Over 2 billion adults, endless cities bustling with movement, soaring mountains, vast deserts, deep forests, and boundless oceans. At first, the sheer magnitude of it all amazed him. But as he passed through cities and fields, watching people hurry by on their own bustling errands, the prince sensed a profound emptiness underneath the surface. He noticed that everyone was always in a frantic rush, heads down, eyes fixed on their paths, talking to themselves and never to anyone else. No one stopped to greet him. Not a single person asked where he had come from or what he was searching for. The more people he saw, the more invisible he felt. Earth was a crowded planet, yet strangely lonelier than any place he had visited. He wandered for a long while, under sun and starlight, winding his way through now familiar patterns of solitude and curiosity. One day, his feet led him to a lush, blooming rose garden along the edge of a quiet park. There, the little prince's gentle eyes widened with shock and disbelief. Before him stretched rows and rows of blossoming red roses, 1,000 or even 10,000, each one as perfect as the flower he had left behind on his tiny home, asteroid B612. Suddenly, confusion and sorrow swelled in his chest. He knelt among the roses, his hope crumbling silently. How could the rose who had claimed to be unique, the only one of her kind in the universe, be nothing but a single blossom in an infinite sea? She said she was special, the prince whispered sadly, gazing at the sea of petals. But look at them. She is just one rose among so many others. He turned away, feeling a tight ache. Never before had he felt so alone or so uncertain of his heart. Had he been tricked? Was love just another story someone tells you in the dark? Wandering again, the prince left the city far behind, walking beneath open sky. Fields of golden wheat stretched in wide waves, catching the breeze with a secret music. On one such afternoon, the air shimmering in the heat, the prince heard a quiet, hesitant hello. He turned, startled, and saw a fox sitting still amid the tall grass, a creature with autumn-colored fur and clever, melancholy eyes. "Hello," the fox repeated softly. "Hello," replied the little prince. "Who are you?" "I am a fox," the animal answered. "But you don't need me. I am only a wild animal." Something gentle and longing bloomed in the prince's voice. "But I am sad. I want to play with you." The fox shook his head. "You cannot play with me. I am not tamed." "Tamed? What does that mean?" "It means to create a bond," the fox explained, his truth simple but enormous. "It's when, little by little, someone becomes special to you, when a stranger becomes your friend." The little prince sat down in the grass, his curiosity awakened. He listened closely, hoping for understanding. "For you right now, I am just a fox, like 1,000 others, and you are just a little boy, like any other boy. But if you tame me, we will become important to each other. I will be unique to you, and you to me." The prince thought for a long, silent moment. Was it possible to give meaning to someone, To anything? By caring for them? By seeing them again and again? I would like to, he said finally, but I don't know how. The fox smiled softly, as if remembering a lesson he'd learned long ago. You must be very patient. Sit here every day, always at the same time. At first, keep your distance. I will watch you and you will watch me. As the days pass, you will come a little closer. Friendship, like the golden wheat, grows slowly with time, with care and with trust. Soon the golden grain will remind me of your hair. My heart will leap with the wind when I know you are coming. So every day at the appointed hour, the little prince returned to the field. At first, he and the fox sat apart in silence, a space between them filled with uncertainty, but also hope. With each passing day, the distance lessened. Quiet turned into understanding, and unfamiliarity grew into comfort. The prince discovered that love is not born in an instant, but is built layer by layer, through patience, gentle words, and moments shared in the quiet company of another heart. As days turned into a gentle rhythm, a bond formed. Trust now danced between boy and fox. The little prince learned that true friendship requires time, and that the things that matter most cannot be seen or measured. They are felt and nurtured, like seeds pushing up through the soil. One evening, as the sun lengthened the shadows and the wind swept playfully over the fields, the fox gazed tenderly at the little prince. Now, he said, I am tamed. You have made me feel special in the whole world. The prince smiled, a new light dawning in his eyes. In that moment, he understood. All the time I spent with my flower on B612, watering her roots, listening to her complaints, sheltering her beneath the glass dome, watching her sleep, those moments made her unique. She is my rose because I have cared for her. That is what makes her different, even if 1,000 roses look the same. Soon, it was time to say goodbye. The fox's eyes glistened with sadness, but also with the quiet joy of gratitude. Now you will go, I will miss you. When I hear the wind rustling through the wheat fields, I will remember you and I will smile. I am sorry you are sad, said the prince quietly. The fox nodded. Of course I will cry. That is the price of loving. If you wish to have a friend, you must risk a little sorrow. But remember this, my secret. It is simple. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. You must never forget. You are responsible for your rose. The little prince's heart swelled with wisdom and gratitude. He nodded, his eyes shining, no longer with the ache of longing, but with the glow of knowledge. I will never forget. And so beneath the wide blue sky and between fields aglow with gold, a quiet parting sealed an eternal lesson. The little prince journeyed on, forever changed, not by what he saw, but by what he had learned to feel. The world teemed with people, places, and possibilities. But true love, true friendship, waits patiently in the hush between words, in a glance, in the time devoted to one precious flower, remembered always with the heart.